I'm Elton John. I'm on the Peter Crouch podcast. And in this episode of the Peter Crouch podcast, I'm talking about my new book, Watford Forever, and everything about football that I love and enjoy. So please tune in.
Hello and welcome to that podcast with me, Peter Crouch, Chris Starkie and the notorious SID with me as usual. Special day today. Something that's been threatening for a long time. We had, even right back at the start, we were talking about me, you and Tom, and it was like, you wanted to get Elton John. Dream guest, wasn't it? Elton John.
Yeah, we each got a dream guest, didn't we? You're right. We set out on a mission to bring the dream guest. I wanted Elton John on the podcast. You wanted
Brazilian Ronaldo,
and Tom wanted Kim Jong-un.
I remember listening
Kim Jong-un.
Kim, was he close to?
It was touch and go. We were around the embassy in Ealing for a while, but unfortunately, Kim doesn't often frequent West Ealing at the moment.
You don't tend to find him out and about. He's not one for the. He's not been papped outside Nobu, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure he comes over, but he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't often. I mean, I've not seen him in Brewdog Waterloo.
And also, there's sort of dubious morals behind getting Kim Jong-un on the podcast. I would say, as ever with this podcast, don't rule it out.
Don't rule it out.
This podcast goes in all sorts of directions.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. I mean, we've had some incredible people on the podcast, been able to sit down with some amazing people from royalty to some of the biggest footballers in the world. And this is right up there, Crouchy.
Well, the thing is, we've managed to get Elton on the podcast, right? And when it all came about, it's bizarre. I mean, he's across everything. I didn't realise quite how much he was across it. And through a friend of a friend, Elton John's managed to get my number. And I always remember I was on my way up to a game in Manchester, and on my way, and I got a call, and I was briefed that potentially someone would call me, and it was a kind of home Windsor number. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. So, and Peter, it's Elton. And he said, I've heard you talking about me on the podcast and you'd love to have me on. I'd absolutely love to come on. And I was obviously taken back, like, this is incredible. The fellow who's driving me was like my friend. I've seen him look in the mirror going, what's going on? But obviously, what an amazing fella. Then COVID hit. We had a few issues, him not coming on. And then obviously he's bringing his book out. About his time at Watford and what a wonderful. So he's at Vicarage Road, and we got the opportunity.
Perfect excuse, isn't it?
To interview today.
But that's a really important point as well. Is it's not just Elton John on this podcast. What I think makes it extra special is Elton John at Vicarage Road, and we did this sit-down chat with him. We got quite a bit of time with him. Very lucky. I don't think many people got this sort of time with him at Vicarage Road on a personal level. Just insane to bring the podcast. We all love doing. To Vicarage Road, that would have been good enough. But then to be sat there with the Elton John stand in the background and interview Elton John was
fitting.
Oh, it was something special. What about? Let's start with Vicarage Road though. Your experiences of playing at Vicarage Road, or was it quite nice to be back there and doing something a little bit different?
I'd actually been there in the season. I'd done a bit of co-coms for the Watford Blackburn game, which I'm sure you was at as well. But it's improved a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It used to be. Where the dugouts are, that stand wasn't the greatest of stands. It was quite open on the right.
Well, that stand was largely you couldn't use it for many years.
Near the away fans, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was so by the dugouts was that stand wasn't in use, and then the away stand wasn't obviously how it looks today, and they've sort of filled in the corners. The stadium looks,
I love it now.
Looks good.
All black. And
you scored some good goals there.
I had some good memories there. Yeah. I remember scored a few down there. I remember one particular game at Liverpool. Bizarrely, I was playing on the left of a three, kind of up front.
Left of a three.
So who was
pacing behind?
It was Bellamy. I think it might have been Dirk Kuyt or Fowler, and me just to the left. I was like, "What kind?" I've never done this before. And Rafa was like,
"Front three."
Rafa was like, "We're trying something different today." And I was like, "Oh, great. Obviously, that doesn't involve me anything different, right?" And he was like, "I want to try you." Wait, pardon? But bizarrely, I probably had the worst game of my life, but scored 2 goals. So it kind of worked. It was like I was pulling kind of in between the centre half and the fullback, and they couldn't really deal with me in those areas, and it was. I didn't play well at all because when I was tracking the winger back to my own half, I was all over shot. But then when I was, get up near the goal, I found myself in quite a bit of room and got a couple of goals.
It's funny to think I would have seen you both play at Vicarage Road. and then we're all together. I don't want to be over romantic about it, but it was like this for me. And I've got you boys, we've got the podcast, we're sat up in a nice room, Elton John standing in the background, and we were waiting for Elton John, weren't we? And
I was nervous.
I could tell you were nervous.
Were you?
I was nervous.
You never
No.
outwardly showed that you're nervous.
No, I was.
You were
More
quite
so
quiet,
yeah.
actually. My major concern was just before Elton John entered the room, we were coming up with an alternative 11. We were just sort of killing time with, and I can't quite remember what the theme was, but I suddenly noticed all these people were in there. And
They filtered in, and
one of us is silent for a second. All you hear is Elton Dong. And I'm like, no.
Shane Schlong.
This isn't gonna happen. This whole thing, but
we love our 11s. We do,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
actually have got a bit of admin to get through before we get into Elton John. Can't believe I'm saying that,
Yeah.
but that's coming in a minute. But should we get through the message from Jordan?
yes, we got a couple of messages. Let's do a couple of messages.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm a big fan of these 11s, as we all know, as we all are in this room. Got a Christmas 11 here for you.
Great.
Yeah. So Pepe Reindeer, Jesus Navas, Ashley Cole, obviously, Angel Gabrangel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See
Oh,
that.
Angel.
Yeah.
Or Juan
Yeah.
Pablo.
Gabriel,
Angel.
Gabriel,
Yeah.
the angel Gabriel.
Or
I guess.
Brett.
Yeah.
Brett Angel.
Yeah.
If you're Angel. If you like that. Rory de Lapland. Dennis Wiseman. Dennis Wiseman. Frankincense Lampard. Big fan of that. Danny Murphy. Oh, sorry, yeah. Got you, Danny Murphy. Sorry. Santa Cazorla.
Yeah.
Big fan. Andy Carrolls.
Yeah.
Rudolph Van Nistelrooy.
Belter.
He's never
Look
heard
at
that
this.
before, is he?
Sid's run through the subs for us. It's some belters it.
Ryan Giggs in blankets. Dwight Yorkshire Pudding and Jamie Carragher.
Oh,
there we are.
Ryan Giggs in blankets.
That is
underrated.
brilliant.
That.
Yeah.
It's a great 11. More festive 11s, any other players, feel free to get in touch and
Happy with
let
that.
us know. We've got any other messages, Sids?
Yeah, we've got a message from Simon here. Hi, lads. Simon here, a.k.a. the Horse Whisperer, a.k.a. the Bubble Blower.
Interesting, yeah.
This is going to be interesting to see where this goes. I've got a couple more juicy manager stories to share.
Sorry, I forgot about this guy. This was
Yeah.
the West Ham
That's it.
insider.
Yeah.
As
You
he
call him the
said he
whistleblower. He thought he was the horse whisperer.
That's right.
So here we go. This one involves Slaven Bilic managing at West Ham. Many listeners would know that he loves, or he is a serious smoker, casually putting away 40 to 50 a day, even as a player. But as a manager, and on the Hammers game day, he'd have no qualms chuffing away in the manager's office, which was located in the tunnel area of Upton Park. Pre-game, half-time and full-time, the tunnel would absolutely stink, and smoke could regularly be seen billowing out from the cracks of the door. That would usually be accompanied by a lot of angry swearing, and it wasn't the best of seasons for the Irons. Okay, but the highlight was one specific game where he was smoking so much at half-time he set the fire alarm off in the tunnel, and they had to delay the restart by a few minutes as officials thought it was a real fire and they may need to evacuate the stadium. Safe to say the smoke alarm was later removed from his office, as was Bilic soon after. Oh, and just to make the story a bit more spicy, he used to sit at the back of the team bus on away days and chuff away. I will be in touch with another story in the near future. How does he know that on the away bus?
So this fella, right, did the horse whisperer. I reckon he's as he'll now be known, by the way. I think he must be involved. He must be involved.
He's got to
In
be in
West
and
Ham.
around
Well, I
it.
hope so. Otherwise, he's literally making up stories about
That's
people.
what I mean. He's in
sending them
and around. Like he's been on kind of like the pre-season trips.
Yeah.
He's
I have
talking about
heard.
inside
I
the
have
tunnel.
heard he was on the back of the bus as well, having a toot with a few.
Yeah,
of
and
the players.
I've spent time with Slaven Bilic. He used to come down and visit Nico Cranchar, Luka Modric, and Shaw Luka at Tottenham. Obviously, they're big players in the Croatian team when he was Croatian manager. And like, yeah, he did. He's quite comfortable having a fag. I know that, and he's also comfortable with the lads, like chatting with the lads, even when he was manager. Like they loved him.
Yeah,
They absolutely.
So
loved
would he
him.
do training? Just have a dart on? Would
Yeah.
he? Really?
Yeah.
So it feels quite old school, doesn't it?
That's a bit, yeah. But I don't know. Those Croatians, mate. They're of every kind of Croatian player I've came across, I've like really got on well with. They were just, don't know, great lads.
They got a kind of a sort of an English British mentality, haven't they? That's
maybe.
why they probably fit in like a drink.
Oh, they fit in
have a
really
smoke.
well. And like, you know, Bilic is just, whenever I've come across Slaven Bilic, I remember doing I did the World Cup in France with him. It was the Euros. Was it the Euros?
Yeah, I remember this.
Euros.
For the BBC.
With the, it was actually ITV I did it with, and Bilic was on. And, like, what a top man. Like, great guy.
Seems a good guy.
But yeah, did like a fag.
Like to fag. It's interesting insight, isn't it? You know, from the couple of stories that we've had from the Horse Whisperer, do you think you know kind of what position in the club he might be? What do you suspect?
Where are you going to go? I was looking at kind of player liaison.
Oh, really that high into it.
Or like
That's a massive scalp, isn't it? If it is
ex-player liaison. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's got to be someone that's, well, I mean, to get access to the tunnel, you got to
Press.
know.
assistant press operations. It's got to be an assistant. Assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I can see more of these coming out. But that's a good one. That 40 to 50 a day he was going. That's
Prozanecki was the best I've seen in the dressing room and stuff. Robert Prozanecki played with him at Portsmouth.
yeah.
Croatian, like Real Madrid, Barcelona. He was an unbelievable player. But yeah, just used to just. I mean, Harry let him do it, but like at half time, he'd just be in the showers, having a fag. But like every time he'd say Robbie, and he'd just poke his head round and says, "Gav up, I need you in the hole. Like keep getting on the ball side." He'd go, "Sweet." I go back in the shower. Just saw smoke coming out from the side. But it was one of those. Like, obviously, you don't get away with that if you're a normal player. But
No.
if you're him, I mean, the man was a genius. Kind of
culture, isn't it? What if they do it to de-stress, just to
yeah.
keep calm? Maybe?
That shower room was weird, you know. Like, by the way, Sean Derry used to throw up before every game, like it was like his nervous energy. So like Robbie would be in there having a fag, Des would be throwing up.
Sounds like a Friday night outside of
But like great times. That was my second season in professional football watching it.
But that's the thing. Do you remember the times before the smoking ban? I don't want to make it sound. I'm not sort of glorifying it. I'm just saying,
we're not glorifying it.
But do you remember how different it would be? And then do you remember the biggest scare with nightclubs around that time was what they're going to smell like? Because the smoking ban covered up everything. The smoking covered everything, didn't it? And but actually it was all right. But I remember there was one nightclub I was working in where they planted flowers in the nightclub to try and, because they were worried everyone's going to be able to smell each other.
Real flowers.
Real flowers, like it's,
What are you saying? Like,
Swear down.
wow. Are you saying like people are sweating on dance floor? It's going to be a bit musky.
Yeah, because everyone's dancing, sweaty. They're worried about what nightclubs were going to smell like.
Oh god, yeah, I
Mad
never really
times,
thought that.
isn't
Yeah. What's so weird is like living through before and after. Like it used to stink.
Oh,
I think
it was
fun. I remember
disgusting,
my dad's, my mate's dad. We used to walk home from school together. We go past the pub, and he said, "Oh, I got any keys?" And his dad would always be in the pub, but we'd walk in as kids to get the keys off him. Come out as if we'd had 3 days on the piss.
It was mad.
If we didn't know.
Or think about like restaurants. You'd choose whether you want a smoking table or a non-smoking table, but the smoking table's like right next door to it.
Yeah.
So
It's
mad.
Well, you smoke on an aeroplane.
I've never. That's way before my time.
Oh, I remember.
Have you ever smoked on an aeroplane?
No, I've not smoked on an airplane, but I remember.
But they still put the signs up, which I find a bit odd.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like,
I
as
think
if
we've all moved on, haven't we?
But I just can't believe how quick we moved on. Like, I remember it coming in. I thought, there's absolutely no way that's going to cut. No one's going to abide by that. And then obviously now it's just ridiculous to even just think of it.
Smoking will be gone in next. What do you think? It's like
They're trying to, aren't they?
I think they'll be gone.
They're trying to.
Yeah.
Oh well, we've
know.
tackled smoking there.
It goes any direction.
Thanks to Slaven Bilic.
Elton John on the way, everyone.
We did a call to arms about getting subscribers up, and you fulfilled that wish. John Nellis, big shout out to you. Got us over to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. But I'm talking to you. Are you a Carl? Have you not hit subscribe yet? Don't be a Carl. push the button.
This next part of the podcast is sponsored by Brewdog, which means two things. We get to hear from our favourite bartender, Ryan, and then we get to tuck into a different Brewdog beer.
Yeah, we certainly do. We found out last week that Ryan's just had a little girl, Sonny, or Sonny, named after the Spurs legend. So he's not in here in person to introduce us to the beer, but we'll do from afar. So what's he got for us?
Here it is.
Crouchy, Chris, Notorious. It's Ryan here. I hope you're all doing well. I have to say, I do much prefer serving you guys the pints in person. It's definitely not the same doing it down the phone. But I guess I know how you guys feel having to record remotely now. As you're aware, I usually come in and serve you a beer and leave you with it for a few weeks and give you a little bit of time to get through plenty of them. But since it's the end of the year, we're going to shake things up and bring back some of our favourites from the past few months. So next up, it's Wingman. I know we all had a great time drinking that one. Launching this one was definitely one of the highlights of our year at Brewdog. This beer wasn't about the tasting notes at all, or the process that we went through. It was all about making sure that we had an amazing time with mates, sharing a few jars, having some good jokes. So it's definitely a perfect fit for the pod with you guys. It's a nice, beautiful, delicious, crisp 4.3% pale ale. So once again, I hope you really, really enjoy it. Before I go though, as always, I do have a question for you inspired by the beer that we're getting into. So guys, I want you to tell me, who is your wingman of the year? Who's that one person or player who's always been there to get the party started and make sure that everybody has a good time? For me, definitely following from Man City's title celebrations at the end of the season, it's got to be Grealish, doesn't it? Enjoy the beer, guys, and I'll catch you soon.
Nice. All right. Well, let's kick this off. What we said about Wingman, it's been good this year with this, hasn't it?
The beverage,
The beer itself, yeah.
The beer itself it's gone down a storm. Like that's this. Well, I'll be honest with you, this wasn't on my radar till we started this, and it's firmly on radar now.
Do you find that on social, on X and Instagram, you get tagged in pictures of people drinking Wingmans?
Yeah.
It's like when they come to the Brewdog here, and they kind of want to say, "Oh, we're in the place you do the pod." They tend to order the Wingman. That's what I've noticed.
It's well and truly on the map, isn't it? It's an easy drinking beer, isn't it? That's what's nice. It's got a nice taste. You can have a few, and you feel great after.
I think the word that Ryan used was sessionable. It's a word that I've incorporated
sessionable
into my vocabulary.
Yeah,
sessionable.
And then just sort of thinking about wingmen in football and what it is to be a wingman, I've got a few suggestions here of footballers
I've
that
got a
have
suggestion
sort of
myself as well.
demonstrated. You want to nominate
You
yourself?
go first.
Well, nominate yourself.
I'm not nominating myself. I'm nominating Stephen Sidwell for slipping into the podcast so very easily.
Yep.
You know, it's quite easy to bring a wingman in and it not work out.
Very true.
I'd just give an honorary mention to the Notorious SID. I feel like he slipped in well.
But this is the one I think for me. This is the wingman, Jason Tyndall, the Newcastle assistant, for always being by his boss's side.
Yeah.
too close sometimes, but
Well, sometimes in front. Not often. Sometimes excited. Sometimes in front of him.
it's an excited wingman.
He is.
He enjoys.
That's a great
he
shout.
loves his wingman status. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. He's doing great stuff at Newcastle, isn't he? Do we think going into next year as well, do you think he'll stay there or do you think he'll break free? And
No. I just think he'll always be
He's a wingman
Eddie's wingman, yeah.
Great.
They're doing great work up there.
Okay, well, that's Wingman of the Year done. I think we're all agreed. Jason Tyndall with the shout there. But what awards do you guys have in mind? A quick reminder that over the next few weeks, we're going to be handing out some special awards to mark our favourite things that happened this year. And we want your help. So we want you to nominate a mate for an award of your choosing and tell us the story behind it. Tell us the best ones, and we will read those out, or some of them, on the podcast. And our favourite winners will get a special video message from us. So I guess we're looking for stories of where people have stepped up to be a decent wingman to you.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's got one of these stories in them, right?
No, without doubt. Yeah, we've had some belters in so far.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
Yeah.
We've been getting a few of these in already. These ones are from Instagram. I'll do the first one in Sid's. I think you got a few there, right?
Yep.
Happy Jack nominates the Notorious SID for Breakthrough Rapper of the Year award.
Yeah. I don't think there's any, I'm trying to think, anyone kind of bigger come through this year
I think that's.
in the rap game, Sids.
I think I might have that one locked up.
Yeah.
Central C.
Central C, but I mean, you know, he's good.
He's been going for a few
you know,
years,
maybe you know.
Central Sids.
Central
Sids. Emma Harrison nominates her dad Clive for Complainer of the Year. He's just demanded a replacement security light for the back garden as it won't turn on. Turns out he had fixed the light facing the back of the garden fence.
Oh, he's done it the wrong way around. Unbelievable scenes. All right, we love that. Keep the nominations coming on social. And while we're at it, if you want to enjoy a sip of Wingman like we're doing right now, head over to brewdog.com where customers can get 15% over using the code Crouch15 at checkout. Enjoy. What a privilege to be sat here at Vicarage Road with the man himself, Mr. Sir Elton John. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for doing this. It's lovely. You've been asking me to do this for so long, and now I've come off the road and I'm available.
We have. We've been on your back quite a bit about this. So I appreciate you humouring us. Chris is obviously very, very excited. Obviously, he's a huge Watford fan and a Pinner boy.
Well, this
So,
is it. Yeah.
Where from? Where?
Well, just
What road?
Cannon Lane.
Cannon Lane. That's where I used to go to school. Pinner County.
Yeah. So just down the road.
Yeah.
So this is it. I think it's an interesting place to start because we both grew up in Pinner, both huge Watford fans. So we sort of had the same start, but then slightly different paths. I think, from there.
Yeah.
so, yeah, we're still
But
hoping.
you're not as old as I am, so
I've got it all to come, have I?
I've got to start, obviously, Watford Forever is the book that you obviously wrote with John Preston here. I've halfway through at the moment. This is right up our alley as a podcast because football nostalgia and, football of this age means a lot to us. And, obviously your time at Watford was unparalleled, like going from the old 4th division to the 1st division, an FA Cup final. Absolutely incredible. But I just want to start really with, how did it all come about? How did your love for Watford come about? Was it a person?
Pinner boy.
Yeah.
What made you love Watford?
well, my local club. Pinner's only about 6 miles up the road, and so I used to get either the Metropolitan line to Watford, or the I'd go to Hatch End and get the other line and go to Watford High Street, and walk to Watford. But I used to go with my dad, and that's when they played in blue. So I know I'm really ancient as far as this goes. And also when I was a young kid, my cousin played for Fulham, Roy Dwight, and so I used to sit on the touchline at Craven Cottage and with Johnny Haynes, Jimmy Hill, all those, Tosh Chamberlain, Tony Macedo, all in the team. And so football was really run in my family. But Watford is my big love because it's my local team. And I think once it starts embedded in your soul, you can never get rid of it. And the last couple of years have been really painful. And I dread weekends. But it's been a magic place. Listen, when I first came here with my dad, we used to stand just down there, and there was just 2 little old wooden stands. And to see it now and to see how far we've come, for me, it's just extraordinary. And I get very emotional about it.
And for me and Sid's, obviously, that played the game. Obviously, we've stood on terraces ourselves, and then as players, you think, I feel like I've really achieved something playing professional football. But for you to be standing there with your dad, and then having a stand named after you now, and also owning the football club. I mean, how did it come about, and how did it feel when you were?
Well, Watford couldn't have been in a worse position. They were 92nd in the league, which is the bottom. And someone said, you should do something for Watford. So I did a concert with Rod Stewart, and we raised some money for the club, and I got to know the chairman, Jim Bonser, and they made me a vice president, and then I got bitten. And I just wanted to... No, we weren't going anywhere. There was a dog track. It was horrible. I think he'd had enough. And so consequently, to cut a long story short, I bought the club from him. And then I appointed Graham Taylor, which was extraordinary because I was a pop star and I had to interview someone I had to interview our football manager. And I thought, what am I going to talk about? But he came to my house and I said, listen, I want to go into Europe. And we were bottom of the league. So he said, really? I said, yeah. And he obviously believed that I had the passion to go as far as we could. And so he said yes, to my astonishment, and we started to motor. We appointed Bertie Mee from Arsenal. We appointed a proper secretary, Eddie Plumley, Tom Wally became our youth guy, and the adventure started. And it was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my whole life by loving football as a kid and watching. I remember one day I couldn't afford to come in. So my dad had a Dormobile van, and I stood on the top of the van at the Vicarage Road end and watched the game above the wall. And we were playing Hartlepool in the snow in the FA Cup. So it's embedded in me, and I love it. I love the thing about the whole journey was the community, the feeling of everyone in the club being so great, so close to you. I work in a business which could be very sycophantic and, a lot of bullshit. There was no bullshit here. There was just like, don't like your new single.
They'll tell you how it is.
Bloody awful, that is. But it was, you knew the women who do the washing, the people who made the tea, the groundsman, everything like that. And Graham was very much a big part of wanting that to become even larger. So we got the family section in the stand, and we were the first club to ever do that. And so it was just a joyous experience. When you're on, when you've played football, and you know that when you play football and you've got a thing going and it's clicking well, it's the same when you've got a band together and you're having success as a musician. There's momentum, and once you get momentum and belief in yourself, then you're unstoppable, basically.
Elton, you was the first sort of global superstar, celebrity owner of a football club. Doing that alongside, obviously, your music industry, juggling the both of them must have been hectic. But when you was here, did you feel like this was your piece? Because we've played football, and when you're on the pitch, all troubles and all the worries go away. Did you feel that when you were here?
I was so happy when I was here. Much happier than I was when I was, in my business.
Yeah.
Because these were the people I grew up with. They were real people.
Was it like an escape for you?
It was just heaven, a manna from heaven. It was just people who were down to earth that I grew up with. No hidden agendas. It was wonderful. It was one of the most wonderful periods of my life. And I feel so grateful that it happened, not because of just the success, but from what I've learned, the love I got from the community here. You can't buy that sort of stuff. And it was coming here was just like, thank God I'm here. And I used to go in the supporters club and see them after the game. We were a team. I think football has changed so much now that you don't get that so much. In the big, with the top six, but you maybe get it with the Ipswich Towns and the Chesterfields who are doing great, and the Stockports and the Wrexhams and the Notts Counties. The momentum you get from them. You look at those clubs I just mentioned. Chesterfield were in the playoffs last year, and they lost to Notts County in one of the best matches I've ever seen. And this year they're top of the league, and they're carrying that momentum forward. And I really love that. And it's like, yes, that reminds me of what I did with Watford.
What you did with Watford. Obviously, Graham Taylor was such a huge part of that. And he's someone that's obviously very close to my heart as well. He signed me at Aston Villa when no one really believed in me. And he did believe in me. And I, to this day, it's one of my biggest regrets was not doing it for him at Villa, not being the player I wanted to be. But the class of the man, when I played for Liverpool and I played for England, I always remember I was at Villa Park and he came running down, he was doing the press and he came running down and he said to me, I knew you'd do it. Yeah. And he used to text me after England games and he had the belief in me before anyone did. And he's obviously someone that I owe a lot to. And I assume you have, obviously an incredible relationship with him.
He's like my brother. He was like, I was like his older brother. It's very strange. I had two major relationships in my career. Bernie Taupin, who writes my lyrics, came from Lincoln, and Graham Taylor came from Lincoln. And those people have taught me so much, have been there for me. Graham could be very tough with me and he never held back, but he was always compassionate and we were always talking about football all the time. What player have you seen? What do you think of this player? What do you think of that player? And the boy we bought, Morris, what was that centre forward? Morris Johnson. And he scored. I said, he's an amazing player. And Graham said, yeah, let's get him. So we did. I think he scored 5 goals at Wolves in his first game.
Yeah, unbelievable. He knew a player. Well, I'd say that because he liked me. But who is your favourite player? Like obviously Luther Bliss, it springs to mind. John Barnes, a young John
You could always
Barnes.
say Barnes and Blissett and Jenkins, Callahan. I love people like Ian Bolton, Sam Ellis, who was our first captain.
Yeah.
Andy Rankin, our goalkeeper, and then Tony Coton was an amazing goal. Steve Sherwood. They never really got the credits that the forwards always get the credit. Peter, you know that. But obviously our best player ever was John Barnes, without question. But Nigel Callahan, that wing power with Barnes and Callahan on both flanks and Jenkins and Blissett in the middle, if you were a defender, you were up against it. You were really up against it.
Yeah, amazing.
You're talking about knowledge for your team, but you've also got a ridiculous knowledge for other players, other clubs. There's so many stories you hear that you've told someone else, you need to go and look at these two youngsters at this club, they're great. And they're thinking, they even heard of them. And then before you know it, a month goes by and they're on the grapevine and then that's the one, the two that Elton
always
said.
looking at players from all divisions.
Who would you say that you've probably picked out as a player that's gone on to achieve John Barnes being one, I suppose?
Well, I didn't pick him out. That was Graham. I saw him when he was 16 and put him in the side straight away. That's the thing. Don't, put him there. How's he going to learn if he doesn't play? That's the thing. They're always holding players back from, don't play him in the big team, the England team. Let him stay with the under 21s. How the hell? So glad Cole Palmer's in the England squad. He's a great player. He's one of the future. I think he's going to be a wonderful player. But he is a good player, but he's going to be a wonderful player. So give people a chance when they're young. Just holding them back. They want to learn when they're young. Don't hold them back. Just Luther Blissett was another one. Graham gave him the chance and he just blossomed. It's always fun to see great players when they're younger and see them do well. I'm a very pro player person.
Yeah, I just got to touch on obviously the FA Cup moment. I mean, how special was that? I mean, and how emotional were you on the day?
Well, I was very emotional, too emotional probably. But when I hear "Abide with Me," I always cry at that in any cup final. What I regret about the cup final was, in my career, you get certain moments, more moments than a footballer does, of playing huge events and having to pull them off, like Madison Square Garden, Dodger Stadium, Glastonbury, but various. I've had so many in my life. As a footballer, you don't get that very often. You don't get to a cup final very often. You don't win the Premier League very often. What I regret now is not saying to Graham, let me go in there and chat to them. I would have gone in there and said, listen, this is such a big thing for us. You can win this. Don't let it go. This is maybe your only chance to get in this. You can do it. We've got the player to do it. Don't freeze. And I think what happened on that day, we just thought it was enough for us to be there. And I think I could have made a difference if I'd have talked to them beforehand and given them, what Graham would have given them, and from a different angle. This is in your grasp. Don't let it go.
Elton, you did one of the most amazing team talks was to this stadium when you performed here. Was it last summer?
Yeah.
It was one of the best nights of my life. I was saying to the guys, I was here for the concert with all my friends, all my family. It was such a wonderful day. And you gave this incredible team talk. And I think you're right. It would have been amazing, the idea. You could have done that before.
I think I should have done, and I regret it. And sometimes you need a different point of view other than a football point of view to come in on. It just, this was the biggest. If we'd have won that, we'd have soared as a club. We'd have gone from another level to another level. And it's one of my great regrets that I never said it to Graham, and I should have done the team talk.
Do you know, with the book, is this something, or the reasons for doing it? Obviously, it's an incredible story, but obviously you've got your two boys as well. Like I always try to show my kids, Daddy was all right, they've got absolutely no interest, but I try to. It's obviously something that your boys you can share with your family, and it's almost like a legacy. Because
my boys are crazy about Watford. They've been mascots. They went to the cup final. They were mascots at the cup final when we lost to Manchester City. They're Watford through and through. And when I get down at the weekends when we lose, and we've been losing a lot recently, or in the last 18 months, it's been a bit of a nightmare. It gets worse as you go on. It doesn't get better. It gets worse. The defeats and the results affect you more. It's crazy.
Why is that, do you think? Is it just because you want to see Watford win the Champions League? I would love to be hypnotised and say, get me out of this, but if you're stuck with it for your life, the team you love,
is always going to let you down or make you feel $100 million.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, I've been there because I've been one of the ones letting them down, to be honest.
You said about moments there, and again, like in your life in general, Madison Square Gardens, all these special arenas that you've done, the games that you've seen, the hard yards, the early years when you took over at Watford, you know, when you got promoted at Wrexham and the victories of the pitches at Hull away, them moments there when you've gone from each division up, really probably you can go back to and go, you cherish them more than anything, I guess, because you got to where you wanted to get to.
Yeah, well, one of the greatest moments of my life, don't know where I wasn't in England. I used to listen to the home games on hospital radio here. And it was the Southampton game where we'd lost 4-0 in the first leg of the League Cup, I think. And then they came here, very cocky, and we beat them 7-2 and progressed. That was one of the greatest nights of my life. I've listened to games all over the world, in China, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I was in Paris when we got to the cup final when we beat Plymouth 1-0.
Have you ever had to reschedule one of your musical events for the love of Watford?
I haven't. That's why I was in Paris playing when we were in the semi-final. I couldn't do anything about it. No, but I've played here quite a few times for the club, and I've played for this stand over there. I've put a lot of money into the club, and I don't regret one single penny of it. I couldn't have bought the £6 or £7 million at least that I put into the club. I couldn't buy that happiness anywhere else. It was extraordinary. It was not like a penance or here I go again. It was an adventure. It was a journey that, we all enjoyed and loved. And I won't ever do anything like that again because I'm not involved in football, and football's changed so much financially. But I still root for the smaller teams. I really think, football is a grassroots game. Yeah. And once you get rid of that, and once you lose sight of that, and I watch football in the second division, and I watch football in the conference, and it's good. It's good. And it's, I'm a great believer in the underdog.
Yeah. No, it's listeners.
We've got to say thank you so much.
Yeah. And there's no greater story, like you going from the bottom of the fourth division to the first division. Obviously, you've been a success in everything you've done, and I'm sure the book will be a great success as well. There's plenty of us behind the camera who are actually at Glastonbury as well, by the way. And I have to say, that was one of our finest moments as well. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. That was a surreal day, and one that I'll never ever forget.
Yeah.
He honestly blew me away. Like, just global icon, superstar, but so down to earth and knew so much about football.
That's the one, isn't it? Like,
fucking, I was amazed.
Like the ins and outs of kind of lower league stuff. Who's top of the league, what players that are impressing. What players he wants to sign for Watford.
Yeah.
So
County, Chesterfield. He's watching mad games.
Of all
watching Wales in Welsh. Get on that one.
Yeah, he was away, and he watched it in Welsh.
Extremely proud of Watford. Extremely proud of Pinner as well. When that interview ended, he sort of hung around a little bit, and we were talking to him, and he just really cares about football, and he really cares about where he's from. I think that really came across with it. And just so mad, like I just found it insane every time I looked behind and looked out the window. And if you go onto our YouTube, you can see the interview there with his stand in the background. Do you see what that guy? Yeah. I mean, we're parching him here, but we have to.
Yeah. Well, I think that's okay. The lyrics as well on the thing, and even when you pull up to Vicarage Road, I didn't realise there's been two murals, isn't there? There's like the one kind of on the bridges on the way in, and then they've one like next to the ground.
Yeah, such a special guy, special chat. We've been so lucky with some of the people we've had on the podcast, haven't we? And that's right up there. So please let us know your thoughts, and make sure you sort of, there's going to be loads of clips of this on social doing the round. So feel free to share it about, because I think a really special chat.
Yeah, 100%. There's one question I did want to ask him, but I never did. Just that obviously, like, we both love Graham Taylor. Graham Taylor was instrumental in my career. I wanted to ask him about like how he felt when Graham was going through what he went through with England, like what because obviously he was so close to him. I wonder how
Yeah.
wonder if he reached out to him.
He definitely did. He must have done, because he reached out to so many other people, didn't he? And
Yeah, and when he was saying about his sort of regret of not doing that team talk and things like that, I think he does seem very responsible, doesn't he? He seems very responsible for other people and the stuff that he's involved in. So, yeah, I'd like to imagine, and from reading the book as well, I'd like to imagine that he probably did reach out to him, and it would have helped.
for a personal one for you, I mean, the job that you're in and the circles that you delve into, you're around superstars, but for you that must be a lifelong highlight.
Sid, you can hear it in that chat, like starstruck. I don't really get starstruck about anything.
But even after, when like mics were down and there's going to be some great pictures of you and him having a chat about, you say growing up, and he said, I grew up not far from there.
Yeah,
but you had a real good sort of just open discussion with
you said it at the start, Crouchy. We had the same upbringing, both from Pinner.
Yeah.
Both big Watford fans. You know, obviously we took slightly different paths in life, but you know, there's a lot of similarities there. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, just touching on the book, like I haven't been able to put it down. Like I absolutely love the book. Like, I'm not just saying that. I genuinely really love it. It's right up our alley. It's like just the kind of the history of it, like how he got into it, and then obviously Graham Taylor was manager of Lincoln. He had first division clubs after him, and then him kind of going after him. Getting him in, he actually met him at his house, and it was. I'm sure it was Elton John's mum that kind of. He said it was his housekeeper, but it was actually Elton's mum. So, Graham,
there's a little fly buzzing around you at the moment, Crouchy. I'm well aware of. It's distracting.
It's quite distracting. Yeah.
No, you're right, and I think. Like, what a mad situation for him to be so significant in music, but to then be. People trusting his opinion, and then have the success that he had as chairman.
But it's not just success. Actually, you'd know, obviously being a Watford fan, but like I think people forget kind of the level of success like that he's had. It's Division 4 to the First Division, right? They finished second to Liverpool, which would be the equivalent of the Premier League now, right? So
and the Liverpool team in the 80s, wasn't
the 80s
as well?
team, right? So they finished second, and it wasn't even that. They weren't that far behind them. And an FA Cup final, like in that many years, it's an unbelievable rise.
What would you have, like Elton John as chairman as well? If you're a player for Watford, does it necessarily add something when you're thinking of what club you're going to join? Because you definitely get the call from Elton, don't you? It's something we didn't actually go into him with it, but I think he does sort of reach out to certain players, or maybe he brings in some players. But having that, what's both of your perceptions of Watford as a football club and that association with Elton, and must be something that's quite appealing about the club.
Yeah, if you've got a big owner, he doesn't get much bigger than him. I mean, if he's calling you to say, "I want you to come and join," especially even if they're in the bottom division, if they're in Division 4. And he's calling you, and you could go somewhere else. There's got to be an attempt to go. I'm going to get involved in this.
Yeah, we've seen it now with Wrexham, things like that. I mean, like obviously, like I know they've got a few quid as well, can back it up, but they've also got the owners. It's kind of like people. Listen, if they pick up the phone, you're not going to not answer the phone, are you? Do you know what I mean?
Like you in the car, you were saying.
Yeah, like.
But Sid, you looked at one point when he was talking about scouting players. I don't want to put negativity into this, but. Are you slightly gutted you never got scouted by Elton John? Because I did see that little twinkle in your eye when he was talking about it.
No. To be fair, he did know a lot, didn't he, about all of us?
Yeah.
He was like, even about the knockout penalty with Leicester, and then he went to me. You played with him at Brighton.
Yeah.
He
knows
was just
stuff
so
like that.
knowledgeable.
It's unbelievable, like how knowledgeable he is about football.
With big owners and clubs, have you had situations where you both have been kind of, I don't know, swayed by the owner, or maybe got some perks because the owner is ... Well,
I told
free
you
Elton tickets for life, really, isn't it? If you play it right with him.
I told you the Defoe story, didn't I? Like with at Toronto, Drake.
Oh yeah.
That's a mad one. So like,
he's
called him and gone like, we need you. We'll sign you. And he said, definitely. He said, we'll meet up as soon as you get to Toronto. We'll meet up. So Defoe goes to Toronto, signs the contract. I think he signed like a 3 or a 5 year. It was a long deal, wasn't it? And I never saw him again. signed the contract at one phone call. Signed a deal, no problem. Signed it. Never saw him. Said, sorry, mate. I live in LA.
Is that what he does?
Yeah.
Oh my
The phone was like, "Oh man,
So
I'll be
you-
hanging out with Drake
Wow.
in Toronto." he owns the club, doesn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah, well,
It's been Drake baited.
Yeah,
hasn't
he's
he?
literally. So he's called him and he's gone, "Oh yeah, it's Drake," because he thought he was messing about.
Yeah.
I said, "No way," and he said, "No, honestly, it's Drake." And he thought he was going to be going out for lunch and all that. And no,
I think the American teams really leverage the celebrity
Yeah,
angle
million
when getting
percent.
players over.
Yeah.
I think they call. I've seen
Yeah.
it with Will Ferrell actually. I think he made a call for someone, didn't he? Because he's owner or part owner of one of the clubs.
LA,
LA
And he
City,
made,
is he?
LA,
yeah, he bought. I swear he bought someone in by. I might be making this up. I'm sure in an interview I did with him, he was talking about how he had to make a call to a player. I quite like that though.
Well, I remember when I went to Liverpool, I remember Stephen Gerrard doing it. You know,
Yeah.
for like young players and stuff like that, like meeting. You know, I remember Theo Walcott was an option at one stage for Liverpool. I think he met him.
What, Stevie?
Yeah, I think they had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
But you do that, especially away of England camp as well. You know, if you just got in the England squad, and Stephen Gerrard or John Terry or Frank Lamp or someone like that is, you know, you should come to
You know-
United or Chelsea. Or,
You know where Elton was talking about coming into the changing room before a big game and it could change the way that the game went. I appreciate what he was saying, and I'm sure actually that would have been the case because it's a reminder of what you play. You know, a megastar walks in.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've heard him sort of quite rousing speeches when he's performed at Watford, and I've heard him bollocking people, and it's like he can give it some. You
Yeah,
know, he's a
yeah.
passionate guy. How much influence do you think chairman or those people should have when it comes to the game day? And when did you ever have that where like the owner or the chairman would come in before a game and it genuinely affected it in a positive way? Or is it a bit weird having that world in your changing
It
room?
happens quite well. I'm not sure about now, but it did happen quite a lot. I mean, when I was at Reading, Sir John Medeski, he used to come in quite a lot and give a speech, but it was kind of the same speech, and he used to finish it off by saying, "And bring home the bacon," you know, just for them. And like it got a little bit sort of very sort of monotonous. At Fulham, the late Al Fayed, he used to come down quite a lot as well and do a speech. Do you know what we got? You're talking about perks. We got a Harrods.
I remember that. That was a big shout for me when I almost went there.
What did you get?
It was a big one. It was a big one.
Did you get a card or something?
Oh, we got minimum 40% off of everything. in Harrods.
40% off.
Yeah, and then even on sale day as well. Yeah.
But what would you have to do?
Big
40% off anything. Anything.
Anything.
That's damage. What? So
That was good.
did you take him up on his offer? Would he have to be with you, or could you
Oh,
just
no,
walk in?
You got a
Joe's?
card.
Yeah, you just got
a
a card,
card.
and that was it. You just literally you go upstairs to the personal
Puddings.
shop, like the personal shopping, and you
Strap to the puddings.
40%
off.
off.
Yeah.
they're
How
lower,
many puddings?
they're,
Golden
they're,
puddings.
they're lower ground to the left. No, yeah, but he used to come down and do a speech as well, and he used to, because I get it with the owners, the game day is their day. They're not there Monday to Friday, so it's them to bring, I don't know, a few friends,
Entertaining.
and like they I mean, our Fide used to walk around the pitch with swinging his scarf and then come do the speech and then enjoy that day. So I get it. You know, Roman Abramovich used to come down after the games, never before, but yeah.
Some players, I don't know, some owners seem to get away with it. Like Alfine, I think, for some reason, I don't know, he was bubbly and like...
It's
looked like he got
characters,
away with
isn't it?
That's Sam Haman at Wimbledon.
Do you remember
him? Like, he was in the change room all the time and it just looked like he was part of the group.
I remember him.
Remember?
I remember when he was at Cardiff as well. And down the tunnel, as we're about to walk out, the two teams are there. You'd think he'd be up by this time in his box. And he used to come down. He used to go, "Come on, boys, big bonus today if you win." And he used to just get a wad of 50s out of his pocket. Obviously, it was tongue in cheek, but he was just like, you know, the last little arousing speech for the I think it was Cardiff at the time.
Yeah, it was
Ninian
Cardiff,
Park.
There's probably a whole podcast we could be doing
Owners.
on owners.
Oh, no, there's
wow.
millions. Like, obviously, we had Milan Mandaric, and I remember him coming down, and he decided to not pay us for that month because we didn't win. I was like, you just can't do that.
That's not how it
I
works.
said, well, you haven't won. Well, like, I was 19. I was on a decent, like, for me, I didn't have any family, or I was earning too much money for me anyway,
Yeah.
really, at that time. So I was like, oh, I'll get that. And then all the lads with mortgages were like, you can't do that. You just can't do it. Obviously, he went to the FA and he didn't, but he tried to do it. And he came down and he kind of had an American accent. And he'd say, I don't want to come down to the locker room, and everyone go, kind of lost us there really.
Yeah.
And then
I think if they come down before, that seems, in my mind, that seems okay because it makes you, if it's a FA Cup final or something like that, big day, you know, I get the hospitality bit.
Yeah.
The after bit, or worse, half time, I don't know if that's ever happened, but after it, my concern would be they've probably had a wine, you know, and they've got access to the club. And then you have a Delia situation, don't you? But in the dressing room. Yeah.
I think it's with Delia. That was a live game on Sky Sports in front of the crowd.
And she was actually doing a team talk for the crowd rather than the players.
Let's be having you.
Let's be having you.
Will never go away.
Well, it's a special moment for me. I think it's like Delia's up there with Keegan for me. I'd love it if we go there. It's on the same level, and it's top 5, isn't it?
Yeah. As a producer, you're rubbing your hands. Keep them going. Keep this going. This is gold.
I believe
TV gold. I'll tell you who was the most genuine owner, and I loved him. Didn't really spend a lot of time with him. Was Peter Coates.
Oh, brilliant.
At Stoke.
Yeah, that's so true.
Because you actually, he was there a couple of days in the week, wasn't he? Just genuine, sit in the canteen, in the corner, you know, money, because he had a real passion and love for that club, didn't he? And the story about it is great as well. But he was one of the most genuine, nicest ones.
Yeah, great
Definitely.
guy that he is.
Could do an owner's pod at some point. I think there's some amazing stories out there. I'm sure,
definitely.
isn't there?
All right, got one last message here from Anon. He says, I'm a police officer in an unnamed North London station, and I've done this for 12 years now. On a recent Friday, I was tasked with driving the prisoner van for the night. So me and my colleague, I like this already, by the way, me and my colleague stuck the pod on. Then suddenly we got a call to go to transport a geezer who had just been arrested for drunk and disorderly. When we got back in the car after making the arrest, the pod starts playing, and the geezer who has been nicked, let's call him Phil, hears the song, hears this, and sings repeatedly at the top of his lungs. Puddings is massive, everywhere we go. Puddings is massive, everywhere we go. I think we know the rest. Everywhere we go. He did this for a good 5 minutes. This actually calmed him down, as he was pretty anti-police prior to this. Sounds like a Crouch rest goer. But ended in us chatting about the pod, our favourite episodes, and just general football chit-chat whilst waiting to enter custody and book him in. Now, when you arrest someone, obviously they get cautioned, and when they're booked in, they get asked various questions by the sergeant, and it's all recorded, can be used in evidence in court. Anyway, so we're getting booked in. The arresting officer's telling the reasons he got nicked, and the sergeant just says to him, do you understand why you're here, mate? And you've been acting a bit silly whilst drunk, then decided to punch a police officer when he approached you. To which Phil replies, I get that, Sarge, but the silly wanker is a proper Carl. And can I just say, Puddings is massive.
For the record, Puddings is massive. Imagine that as your defence.
Wow. I don't even know what to make of that. Feels like he's really calmed down after singing Puddings is massive.
Let's focus on the positives.
Which is a real positive there.
Let's focus on the positives. What this suggests to me is, and I wasn't aware that you could listen to podcasts or music or whatever whilst transporting prisoners around or like police. I hadn't thought of it. But isn't that brilliant? We should encourage this more because it clearly works. Or maybe they just need to pump the podcast out into town centres late at night. You know, just because it clearly had a good effect.
Well, and obviously, like we obviously tried to maybe don't condone the obviously the punching of the police officer, but once getting in, the calming down, I think is good.
Yeah, it's lovely that this podcast can provide peace,
Tranquil, soulless peace. They should have a speaker that fires it into the cage at the back to calm these animals down.
Yeah, well, if you do, I like the idea as well that people work shifts and have the podcast done. So if you are on the emergency services or you do kind of play the podcast as part of your job, or maybe you work in, I don't know, like Mackey's or something, and you pump it in there. I don't know if that's allowed. Like, let us know how you're passing the pod because it all counts. And fair enough to the police and in some ways, in this instance, the criminal themselves for promoting the podcast.
They're all passing it.
Yeah.
Which is great news.
Yeah.
Well done, guys.
Well done.
Well done. But yeah, like, you know, it's a bit we can't condone there, but well done on the ending.